Howdy, y'all. Have you found that in your small business or side hustle, you've been disorganized, missing deadlines, duplicating efforts, or have inefficiencies that overall waste your time? If so, you're not alone. Many small business owners and side hustlers suffer from this as well. And when you add a partner to the mix, it doesn't necessarily get any better. It often leads to increased lag time, increased frustration, and unfortunately, strained business relationships. Even worse, it can go as far as having strained personal relationships. If you adopt all or even some of the things that I'm going to show you, you could spare yourself a whole heap of frustration. For y'all that don't know, I'm King Crispy. I'm a real estate investor. I invest solo and also with a partner who's located in a different city as me. Additionally, I've had other businesses that required me to work with a partner as well. I've suffered through the pain of inefficient partnership operations so that you don't have to. I'll cover some of the tools and technology that I found particularly useful. A lot of it is relevant to real estate, but it also scopes beyond real estate business as well. Let's get into it. First up is the web domain. Nope, I didn't say the website, I said the web domain. Do you necessarily need a website to strengthen your partnership? That's for you to determine. I personally think you should focus on the business aspects of your business that will bring in more income or streamline your business. If your website will do that, great. But for now, we're not going to focus on building a website. We're going to focus on securing the domain to add a layer of legitimacy to your business, and it will be useful when I get to the next tool. I'm going to show you a quick example of how to secure a web domain. So you're going to go to google.com. That's pretty easy. I'm already there based off of pretty much magic. And I'm going to type in Squarespace domains. You don't have to use Squarespace. I like to use Squarespace because it's fairly straightforward. We're going to navigate to it. Here you're going to type in the desired name for your domain. I always try to get things in the .com top level domain, but it's not necessary. It's just something I like to do. I'm going to type in dutchycapital.com. I would really love to secure the name Dutchy Capital, but some handsome jerk already owns it. It's me. I'm the handsome jerk. I knew I already owned it, so I used it for the example. You can see that dutchycapital.net is available. That's a close second. That could be useful to you. You have dutchycapital.org, maybe not. dutchytaccapital.com, that could work out well for you. There's a whole bunch of different ones that you can use. That's my point. You would go through the process, adding it to your cart and checking out. From there, you just fill in your information. Boom, you own the domain. Now that we've got our web domain, we can move on to the next tool, which is a shared communications mechanism. I am going to recommend email for this, specifically a shared inbox. What I mean by that is there is one email address that goes to a shared inbox where multiple people can access. That is a little bit different from a distro, and we'll talk about that later. The main advantage of having a shared inbox is that someone or some other business can communicate with your business and anyone can respond. There is the cheap way to do this, which I don't recommend, but I'm going to tell it to you anyways. The cheap way is to just use a single email address, such as a Gmail, a Yahoo, something like that, and you share the credentials. The problem with this is the availability. In today's day and age, you pretty much need to have some form of multi-factor authentication. It's those pesky little texts you get every time you try to log into something with your password and it asks you for a PIN. That's what I'm talking about. This is not super effective because how do you choose whose phone it goes to or email address, whatever mechanism you have set? Does it make sense to even use a shared email address if the business partners don't have the same availability? Would they even be available to respond to your request for the PIN when it gets sent to somebody else's phone? These are all things you have to think about. And it's for that reason that my partner and we actually use the Zoho platform that is incredibly simple to operate. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Of course, some of the things that I'm showing you are going to be blocked out. I don't want anybody looking at my personal emails. That doesn't make sense. But the point is, this is our management inbox. There is one email address, and with that one email address, my partner and I can both access the inbox and both respond from the inbox. That is super awesome. Let's say you have a different need, perhaps. You need to communicate with all the people, all of your partners at once. You can use a distribution list or a distro list. Like we have here, we have our managers list. So we have the management, which is, management at ourdomain.com. And then we have managers at ourdomain.com. Managers is a little bit different. What happens is someone can email that distro list and it sends an independent email to both of our email addresses. The problem with this is you can easily spam everybody's inbox when you don't need to. You might also have a limit on the amount of storage you have access to on the email server. Be careful of allowing external parties to email your distro list because they can unintentionally take up more space on your server than you're paying for. You should always know how much storage you're paying for because that's a great business practice. There is something else that you should be doing. You should like this video and subscribe if you find this content even remotely useful. Why? Because it's absolutely free. Next up, there's a problem that arises when business partners aren't sure who's done what tasks. Sometimes it gets so convoluted, you don't even remember what tasks needed to be done. This can be solved with a simple task management platform. What my partner and I use is Zoho. Their platform is actually pretty good and very, very affordable. Zoho offers task management services that are super easy to comprehend. This is what I mean. You can see that the tasks have different statuses such as backlog, open tasks, in progress, and closed. We use the backlog for things that would be nice to happen, but we just haven't prioritized it yet. We use open tasks for things that need to be done. We use in progress for things that we're working on. So we make sure we actually check out the tasks based off of who's working on it. And lastly, we have closed. Closed means it's been completed. I'm going to walk you through how to create a task. The exact steps that you follow might not be the same depending on the platform that you're using, but what I want you to take away from this is the logic behind what I'm doing. When I go to create a task, I can create it in open, backlog, or in progress. If there's a task that I need to record as closed that I didn't previously account for, I'm probably going to set it for in progress because I'm doing it, and then close it out as soon as I finish typing up the task. I'm going to assign the task to a person. I can assign it to up to 5 people. I recommend assigning it to a person directly so they know that is their task to do. You can also assign it to yourself. You're going to set a task start date. That's when the task needs to be started by. And of course, the due date. An important note here, for your due date, you want to set your due date well before something is actually due. And the reason being is because that due date doesn't tell you the date has passed until, well, after the date has passed. So if you need to pay something on time or do something that's business critical and time critical, I recommend setting that due date pretty far in advance, maybe even a week, just to make sure you have some flex time. My task is going to be set in managers, not personal tasks. I'm going to set it up under general because that's the only category that we have. You can set a priority, and here you can set the reminder. You can also set the task title, which I think is very important, probably something short. You don't want it to be super long. And then you're going to set the task description. That will tell whomever is doing the task what needs to be done, sometimes how it needs to be done, and potentially who they need to contact to do it. When it's completed, they can just move it over to the complete category. You can set up subtasks as well. I don't really focus on that because we're not there yet. If we had more people working with us who were not as well versed, maybe we would use that. Once you create the task, it'll show up in whichever swim lane, and then you appropriately document the completion of the task. A task manager is super effective at keeping track of tasks, but sometimes you just need to keep track of events the old-fashioned way. I'm talking about using a calendar. Calendars are super easy to comprehend, so I won't go in too much detail, but I am going to tell you why you should consider using a calendar. Your business, partnership, side hustle, it likely has some sort of events that it needs to keep track of on a semi-annual or some sort of recurring basis. What I mean by that is you have compliance requirements, you have annual meetings, you have partnership reviews, you have all sorts of things. Using a calendar is a great way to keep track of this. I'm going to show you a very simple example of the calendar using the Zoho platform. Again, I use this platform because it has quite a good bit of capability for the price. I'm not sponsored. I recommend you do your own research for which platform. I'm just giving you the tools that you should be thinking about. You can use Google. Google offers a lot of stuff for free, so maybe that's what you'd like to go with. Real quick example of a calendar. I'm going to quickly go and click on my calendar. I'm going to go a couple of weeks into the future. You can see the calendar is blank because there's nothing there for that period of time. But if there were something here, it would pop up. And we would also get a reminder for that thing happening. This kind of looks a little different on every platform, but the concept's the same. As far as setting it up, you just click wherever you want in the calendar to add the event. You put a title, you put who you want to be at the event. If it's a meeting, probably need to invite all the major stakeholders. You're going to put a time that it starts, a time that it ends. You can put the occurrence rate. That's pretty important for things that happen on a regular basis. Location, the rooms. For the calendar, it looks like this is just going to my calendar. I can set it for the manager's calendar, that was the distro group, or the management, that was the shared inbox. So yeah, it's pretty easy. I'm not gonna really belabor that point because it's a calendar. You guys have been using calendars for a really long time now. This next segment isn't really for folks that aren't real estate investors, so if you're not, feel free to skip ahead to the following segment. If you are a real estate investor and are interested or are currently working with a partner, whether they're remote or not, I heavily recommend that you have access to some multiple listing service portal. What I mean by that is Zillow, Redfin, Realtor.com, Berkshire Hathaway. It doesn't matter which one you use, just make sure you pick something that you and your business partners are comfortable with. I'm going to use the Redfin platform because that's the one that I'm most familiar with. So I'll give you a quick walkthrough of how you can use it to collaborate with a partner for finding properties. There I am, I'm at Redfin, it shows me logged in, great, don't have to do that. If you weren't logged in, you would just simply go through the process of logging in. I'm not gonna show you that because logging in is pretty simple. I am gonna go to my favorites and comments. This is where it's important to understand the collaborative features here. So what you can do is there's a little icon next to favorites. Mine's already shared out, but if it wasn't shared out, there would be a little icon here for you to share. You would click that and share. And I'm sharing with just my business partner, and you can see that she is actively shared with. My partner can see all of the lists that I have saved. Particularly, we were looking for a Section 8 rental, so that's the one I'm going to click on here. Some of these, actually all of these are very old. We were looking a long time ago. We're not looking to acquire at this point in time, but maybe in the next 3 months we will be. She could go in, click on a property, and add a comment about it, and I could see that comment. That was super helpful to me. Next, we're going to go to the Save Searches section. You can see here there's a button that says Edit Group Settings. This is another spot where you can go and add that partner. I'm going to click it just to show you where it takes me. Oh, it shows me to log in. Okay, I'm going to log in real quick. Yep. So boom, it's there. I'm going to blur out my info because you don't need to know it. And you can see that I do share with my partner, and that is her info right there. After you and your partner or partners have reviewed the properties that you're interested in on the MLS portal, it's now time to analyze those properties using a calculator or any spreadsheet that you like. I'm going to show an example of the calculator spreadsheet that my partner and I have used. I don't want you to focus too much on the nitty-gritty details. I want you to focus on the format and the fact that we can share it with each other. There's a lot of good information on this spreadsheet. Take a quick look. Feel free to pause if you'd like, take some snapshots. If you have any questions about why we're using these metrics or even what they're used for, go ahead and drop a comment below and I'll get back to it as soon as I can. It's important for you to understand the metrics that you're interested in and why you're interested in them. Make sure you formulate your own criteria. Spreadsheets aren't just useful for calculating things. They're also useful for keeping track of things in a spot where you and your business partners can all access the information. What I mean is, previously I've used spreadsheets with my partner to keep track of contacts that we've used. Maintenance contacts for the most part, pretty much anybody that we would need to maintain a property or rental unit, we've got them in our contact list that we keep on a spreadsheet in which we both have access to. You can keep track of inventory, and I know this might not seem applicable to real estate investors, but it absolutely is. There's things that you have in inventory that are important to keep track of. Things like the number of dishwashers, the number of appliances that you have, brooms, mops, things like that. I know it seems silly, but this becomes more pertinent if you have a short-term rental where it really starts to matter how much toilet paper you have in stock versus what you need to go out and acquire. On that same note, that's broadly applicable to pretty much any business out there. If you sell a product or provide a service, you should probably be keeping track of your products and your services in a spreadsheet or at least some sort of management platform. If you wanted to get super crazy with your spreadsheets, you can even use them as sort of a customer relationship management platform. That's a little bit more in depth, and you might spend more time creating your CRM than you do actually using it, so just be aware of that. You could pay to have a different service for that, but if you don't have that kind of money and you're starting at the bottom, maybe it is worth your time to invest in creating custom spreadsheets just for you and your business and your business partners. Pretty much the only platform that my partner and I use for spreadsheets is, of course, Google Sheets, which ties directly into my next point, which is going to be a shared drive. You guessed it, we use Google Drive. The reason we use Google Drive is because it's super intuitive. It's not difficult to figure out, and you can work with as many partners as you need, have everything in one spot, and control their access level. One of the things that I use it for is uploading pictures that I need to share with my partner. That brings me to my next point. You should probably have a camera. It is a wonderful tool for collaborating with a partner, whether they're remote or not. This is what I mean. If you're a business owner that's not in the business of real estate, there are several different ways that you can use a camera. You can take pictures of your products. If you sell clothing, you can have different people wear your products and use that in promotions. You can appear in your own promotions. You can take pictures of different items after you've serviced them. If you need to relate to a customer that something's in a certain condition, you can take a picture of it. On that same token, if you're a real estate investor, you probably want to communicate with your partners the condition of your properties. And that's exactly how I use my camera and the shared drive. The camera that I happen to use is the Canon R50V. It is a wonderful camera. However, I don't recommend you go out and purchase one of these cameras, especially if you're not sure how to use it. I recommend you use something you've already got. What I mean by this is you can use a cell phone. These are fairly intuitive to use, and it doesn't really matter which one you have. As long as you have something made in the last 5 years, the quality will be good enough. I highly doubt your partner, your business partner, will be able to tell whether you took a 48 megapixel picture or a 24 megapixel picture. Even if they can tell, the difference probably won't matter for what you're taking the picture of. The added benefit of you using your phone instead of a dedicated camera is the phone is incredibly easy to use. You've already got it with you. And it is a lot easier to upload pictures to a drive or whatever your sharing platform is without having to remove pictures from a camera onto a computer or something else and then share it out to the internet. For simplicity's sake, this is going to be your best bet. Doesn't even matter what kind of phone you've got, make use of this first. The last tool that I'll mention is very specific towards real estate investors. So if that's not you, feel free to skip over to the next section. If you're sticking around, I'm going to tell you that you need a property management platform. And it doesn't even matter how many properties you've got or which platform you use. I've mentioned that you can use Google Drive, Google Sheets, Google Docs in a bunch of different ways. You can get by using this for property management, but it's not the same as having a dedicated platform. What I mean by this is there's a bunch of platforms out there. There's TurboTenant, there's apartments.com, and then there's the one that I use, which is RentRedi. It's important to note that I'm not sponsored. I'm telling you this because I've used the products. I was able to sign up for RentRedi and grant my partner access so that she can do all the things that I can do. And remember earlier that I was talking about our times offset. She's available when I'm not, and I'm available when she's not. This is super key when it comes to tenant communications. Yes, we were self-managing for a little bit. The tenant was able to communicate whatever maintenance requests needed to be done, if she had any questions. It was pretty good. I thoroughly enjoyed using the RentRedi platform. I didn't necessarily enjoy self-managing, but I can make a whole separate video on that topic. If you've made it this far, I'd like to take a moment to thank you for your time. I hope that you will consider smashing the like button, hitting the subscribe button, so that this content can continue to reach people who need it. A quick recap of what I talked about in this video was web domain, shared communications, task manager, calendar, multiple listing service portal, calculator and spreadsheets in general, shared drive, camera, and property management platform. I'd love to hear what y'all are using to collaborate with your partners. If I missed something, let me know, and definitely let me know what you're using. Until next time, y'all take care now.